He walked in like he always did, boots heavy from the road, leather jacket dusted with the scars of miles traveled. He wasn't the type to trust easily, and the world hadn't given him many reasons to. Life had been a battle from the start, one he fought alone. He sat at the counter, asked for coffee, and waited like every other customer would. But this time, he noticed something. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was a tremble in the voice of the waitress who served him. Her name was Emily. She smiled, but her smile cracked like fragile porcelain under pressure. Her hands shook slightly when she placed the cup down. And when her sleeve slid back just an inch, he saw it. A dark purple mark, faint but unmistakable. A bruise. He didn't stare. He didn't ask. But he saw. She quickly tugged the fabric over her wrist, pretending it wasn't there, pretending nothing was wrong. People do that a lot, pretending. Pretending to be fine, pretending that fear isn't living under the skin. He knew that look. He knew that fear. It was the same look he once saw every time he looked in the mirror, years ago before he escaped the violence that shaped him. The biker stayed quiet at first. He wasn't a hero. At least, that's what he always told himself. But something in him wouldn't let this go. He watched the way she flinched whenever the door swung open. He saw her glance constantly toward the clock, toward the window, like she was counting down to something dreadful. When the diner quieted down, he leaned in a little and asked softly, "You sure you're okay?" She nodded fast, too fast, and that was an answer in itself. Another man walked through the door. The whole place seemed to freeze. Emily's eyes widened with fear, and her breath caught like she'd been punched without a hand lifting. The man took a seat in the corner, staring her down. That look wasn't affection. It was control. It was ownership. It was a warning that spoke louder than shouting ever could. The biker watched silently, anger churning in his chest. He clenched his jaw because he knew that type, a predator disguised as a partner. A bully who believed love gave him permission to destroy. He knew because he had once lived under the fist of a man like that. Emily approached the table, shoulders stiff, eyes lowered. The man grabbed her arm too tightly, whispering threats through clenched teeth. She nodded again, trying not to cry. She slipped back to the kitchen as fast as she could. The biker stood up slowly. Every instinct in him said to mind his own business, avoid the fight. But another instinct, the one he thought he'd buried long ago, told him that if he walked away and did nothing, he would regret it forever. He approached the table. "Problem?" he asked simply, voice low but steady. The man smirked. "Not yours," he snapped. Maybe that should have been the end of it. Maybe he should have walked away. But he didn't. Because sometimes doing the right thing means stepping into danger. Sometimes bravery means confronting the monsters that hide in plain sight. The biker sat back down, but he didn't stop watching. He waited until Emily returned with the bill, slipping it onto the table with trembling fingers. As she turned to walk away, the man grabbed her wrist again, and she gasped in pain. That was it. That sound, that tiny cry she tried to silence, it lit a fuse. The biker rose like thunder. "Let her go," he demanded. The man stood up too, puffing out his chest, believing he could intimidate anyone. "Back off," he growled. But it was too late. The biker's fist flew, not from anger, but from justice. The diner echoed with the impact as the man crashed backward into chairs. The biker stepped between him and Emily, shielding her with his body. She wasn't prepared for anyone to defend her. She didn't believe she deserved that kind of protection. When people are treated like they're worthless long enough, they begin to believe it. The man scrambled to his feet and ran out the door, shouting threats over his shoulder. The biker didn't chase him. The real battle wasn't in fists, it was in helping Emily escape a life she feared was inescapable. Emily stood frozen, tears finally breaking through. The biker looked at her, not with pity, but with the promise of help. "You don't have to go back," he said, voice gentle for the first time. She shook her head. "You don't understand," she whispered. "He'll come back. He always comes back. Fear is the greatest prison. It convinces you that escape is impossible. That is how abuses win, they destroy hope. But the biker understood more than she realized. He had spent years believing he was trapped, until one day, someone did for him what he just did for her. They stepped in. They showed him that the chains he thought were unbreakable were already rusting. He offered to drive her somewhere safe, anywhere she wanted. But safety wasn't just distance. It was freedom. He made phone calls, talked to people he trusted. A shelter was arranged, a place where she could breathe without fear, a place that promised protection. That night, as they left the diner, Emily turned back one last time. She wasn't saying goodbye to a building. She was saying goodbye to the version of herself that believed she wasn't strong enough to leave. But freedom is never easy. The man returned later, angry and vengeful. The diner owner told him she was gone. The biker's warning had left a mark, not just physically, but psychologically. Predators rely on fear, and for once, he was the one afraid. Weeks passed. Emily began healing, not just her bruises, but her spirit. She learned to speak without trembling. She learned to sleep without nightmares haunting her. She learned that she was worth protecting, worth loving, worth living. The biker didn't stay in touch for thanks or recognition. He wasn't a savior. He was just someone who refused to turn away. But the impact of one brave action rippled through lives more than we ever see. Months later, he passed through the same town again. He stopped at the diner, half expecting everything to be the same. But Emily was not there. Instead, a letter awaited him. It read, "You didn't just save me. You reminded me I deserved a life without fear. I am working now. I am smiling for real. I am safe. Thank you for seeing what no one else saw. Thank you for believing in me before I believed in myself." He folded the letter carefully, placing it in the pocket close to his heart. He didn't stay long. The road always called him forward. But he rode away knowing something different this time, that all his battles, all his survival, had a purpose. They gave him the strength to save someone else. Because sometimes the hero isn't the strongest one. Sometimes the hero is simply the one who cares enough to act. The one who refuses to look away. We live in a world where too many people suffer in silence. Where too many bruises go unnoticed. Where too many cries are swallowed by fear. And we convince ourselves that it's none of our business, and that someone else will help. But what if there is no someone else? What if you are the only person who sees? Every act of courage starts with a moment of noticing. So if you ever see a silence that feels too heavy, a smile that trembles, a sleeve pulled down a little too fast, don't look away. Don't assume someone else will ask the question. Don't underestimate the power of your voice, your compassion, your intervention. Heroes are not defined by capes or glory. They are defined by heart. A biker noticed a waitress hiding bruises. He stepped in, and a life was saved. Maybe one day, the moment that changes everything for someone, will be the moment you choose to care. So ask, speak, help, be the one who sees, be the one who acts. Because that choice, your choice, can be the difference between someone breaking, or someone finally being free. And that, my friend, is how ordinary people create extraordinary change. One person, one moment, one brave decision at a time.